Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog for the Song of the Fae. My name's Ben and I'm the lead developer on the project, and we're going to go over roughly the last month's worth of changes on the game. So yeah, let's get right into it. I tend to talk too much in the preamble for these, so I'm trying to get better about that. Let's get into the slideshow. Cool. So as this says, this is devlog 12. I'm pretty sure I finally updated this to be the correct number. We'll find out when I upload it. And this is July. I think that's also the right month. I'm more confident about that one. So we have a few items to go over today. A little bit less like jam-packed than the last devlog, but honestly, that's kind of welcome for me. It's a bit more focused what we've been working on this time, just expanding like, I want to say the general playability of the game and expanding the space of stuff you can check out and just interact with. And there's some new enemies I want to talk about, which is probably one of the more interesting pieces, but it's all pretty interesting. We're going to start off with rerolling your army, but then damage indicators, bulk rewards, rerolling shops, and then these are all new names for enemies. I'll explain the names, because I like them. Cool, let's get started. Rerolling the army. So, it's been a long-awaited feature, something that I wanted to do for ages, Ricky's wanted to do for ages, people have asked us to do, and we just hadn't because the game was sort of not in a state that could handle it. But now, when you start a run, you'll get this screen, and you can reroll your army. And that not only will that let you change up like the stats and the traits and things, but you'll get access to different compositions, unit types that you didn't used to get in your initial army. So this is a way of exploring everything that's in the game much more easily than having to just get into the middle of a run and find a shop to find these units. And as you can see in this video, you can also inspect the cards to see their codex entries when you're in this mode. So I'll let it loop over so you can see that again. But yeah, that works everywhere, just as an aside. You can right click on unit cards all the time now to see their codex entry, which probably should have been there before. But yeah, you can reroll until you're content with your starting party. It is possible to get 4 of the same unit. It doesn't happen very often, but it's pretty cool if it does. It gives you a lot more chances to explore what's in the game, so I've been really enjoying it. It's less balanced for sure, but like if you've been playing this game, you're used to it not being balanced because it's kind of half the fun. So yeah, this has been really cool, and I would encourage you to check it out. It's probably the thing that's made the biggest improvement to just the general replayability of the game, because all this content that was already in there you can now actually get to easily. But yeah, that's probably all I have to say about that. Next, damage indicators. So we've been working on UI, UX, in accessibility generally quite a lot. This is another step in that process. So there's 2 pieces to this, and that's why I'm not playing the video yet, because I want to outline them. One is that now unit attacks are spaced out over time, and I'll show you what that means. But previously, at the end of your turn, all your attacks happened at once. It's quite hard to tell what happened when there's a lot of attacks on the board. So if you look at this now, if I were to target this skeleton like this, there's 3 attacks in this skeleton. They happen one after the other, and that meter above their head fills up. And you can see this meter, it has the damage number in it, but it shows the damage total as it adds up through the attacks, and this little bar around the outside shows you how close this unit came to being defeated. So you get a much more intuitive sense immediately of how the defense and attack system actually works in practice, and how close you were to defeating an enemy, or how close they were to defeating you. This took a little bit of getting used to for me, because I've been seeing the game look like the way it has for ages, but honestly, after about a day or so, I was just like, this is so much better that I have to put it in. So I really hope you all feel that way as well. I expect that you will, because it's a lot easier to understand what's happening. It's staggering how you can leave something like this for the whole of development and have it one way, and then make a tiny change and be like, nah, it's definitely better. So I'm very happy with this, honestly. I think like just the raw cognitive effort involved in combat dropped a lot once you can rely on this a bit more. So yeah, another one that just makes life better. Rewards. This is another sort of like UX and like a general experience improvement thing. So there's lots of rewards in the game. That's good. I like rewards. I think that they are one of the more fun things to get. It's fun building up your party and thinking about how you're going to deal with it. But we had this way of presenting the rewards before where it kind of just spams you with a series of pop-ups and you don't even know how many of them you're getting. So I've reworked things into this user interface, which is like a wizard with a bunch of like steps. You go through 4 steps here for 4 rewards. You can see this little like line comes out that shows you who the thing's being assigned to. These are all like little changes that I think make a reasonable difference, but one that I do want to talk about here is the skip button that's available too. If you have a reward you don't want, you can now get 1 Vim instead of taking the reward, and this applies to unit rewards, stats, and traits and everything. The reason why you might want to do that, like you're probably like, why would I want 1 Vim for these juicy upgrades? Well, you probably wouldn't, but if you have good traits already and you get a trait reward, it's actually kind of a punishment because you have to take it if you can't skip it. So now you can skip traits you don't want. That's the short version. But the flip side of this, I didn't video this part because it's too simple to even care about, but punishments, which are less common than they used to be, they're now randomly assigned. So you don't even get to pick where they go. It just happens to you. I think that's better. Choosing who you punish, which unit you punish, seems like a nasty task for the player anyway. So hopefully that whole process just feels a bit smoother and more free now going forwards. Similarly to the overall run reroll, we also have rerolling in shops now. So you'll see this happens quickly in this video, so I'll explain before I play it. You can drop a unit from your lineup here into this pit, and it will restock and reroll the shop. So if you've bought everything in here and then you do this, it restocks it as well. So watch this. You can take a Hatkim the Cowed, drop them in this hole here, and voila, a new shop. And I can do it again. You can do it as many times as you want, obviously, except you'll run out of units at some stage during that process, which isn't ideal, because if you spend all your units rerolling the shop and don't buy anything, then you're kind of screwed. But I think this is kind of nice because there aren't that many shops on the board, and if you get one that has nothing useful in it, at least you have a way of dealing with that now. So yeah, not something that you'll use on every single shop, I imagine, although maybe you will, because maybe it's broken and I don't understand why yet. That's the fun of early access. Next, we're up to the enemies, cool. So there's 3 enemies I want to talk about here, but they're all kind of shades of the same mechanic, which is why they're grouped together. And they're called the Firis, the Burnea, and the Retinferno. So I'll start this playing and talk over it, because I'm placing units down. Oh, also, that unit, the werehorse here, is a new unit that has been in the game technically for ages, but you couldn't get it. You can now get it. I'm not going to tell you how. You have to work it out. That's my my little game for you. So if you play the current build, there is a way to get this. It's not clear how to do it. I'm hovering over all these units. I might just rewind the video a sec here. So these are the Burnea is this one. This is a Retinferno and this is a Retinferno. We didn't get a Firis in this room, but that's fine. All of these are puns about eyes and fire, if you couldn't tell. I'm not sure which one is the best anymore. Burnea might be the silliest, but it might be my favorite, to be honest. So these all do some version of the same thing. They swap stats with another unit. Watch this then. So this is a bad example because I'm pretty sure these guys have the same defense underneath, the underlying defense score. Yeah, they did. Yeah, but Burneas swap their defense with another unit if they choose to. So what does that mean? Well, you'll see it happen here and it's much more pronounced. If the Burnea swaps with this unit, goes down to 5, goes up to 10, right? And that's permanent. So that's very, very important that you understand that this can happen when you play them. Obviously, you'll be punished the first time you face these, but yeah, this is a really weird mechanic because, you know, they're rearranging your stats while you're moving around on the board. These guys, the Retinfernos, do the same thing but different. They use it on your skill stat instead of on your defense stat. And I just killed this enemy because I didn't need my skill anymore because the werehorse doesn't really use the skill. Firises, which are not pictured here, do the same thing but for attack. So they're probably like, sorry, my ear's itchy. They're probably the worst ones in terms of having to face off against one. But I couldn't get the thing to generate me a room with all 3 types, so I just didn't video it. These probably need some balancing. Like, I'm not convinced that we're done with it yet, but they're really interesting to play against just because you start to have to think about positioning very differently. Like, I don't want to stand next to a unit that can steal my defense from me. So this is kind of the theme, I suppose, for the Fae biome, which is this forest where the final boss occurs. Like, the units here will interfere with your build more so than just be like really hard enemies to defeat. They'll mess with you. So in that theme, the traitor, who is this snail, you'll see I've spelt it like this, traitor, which is not how you normally spell the word. It's because it's trait dash. They do things with traits. You might be able to guess. Oh, actually, but this is a Firis over here. They look different, but they do the attack thing. Like I said, they swap attack. Traitors do the same thing, roughly speaking, except for traits. So this, actually, I might have shown you at the start of this, yeah. This werehorse is sturdy, so which means they gain defense if they stand still. If I move this werehorse over here, any second now, place it, yeah. Then the traitor will move next to it and it will do its thing and swap traits with the werehorse. And if you hover over the werehorse, it now has no trait, and this one has sturdy. So this is a very weird mechanic. You can use this to swap traits between your units, to swap with enemies, all sorts of like convoluted stuff. But it also just like be careful when you're fighting these is the short version. I think something I've been thinking about is that units like the archer are maybe a little bit overpowered in this area because they can't be interfered with. But I mean, archers can't move, so they have some natural balance already added in there. It's going to be hard to work out if this is a balanced area or not, because it can really change up a build. But that's the fun of early access. So hopefully, once again, you enjoy exploring all this. Yeah, there's more stuff than this that's actually changed in this build, but I'm trying to keep these devlogs short, and it seems like I'm doing okay this time. Fingers absolutely crossed. But if you want the full, I guess, breakdown of what's changed, you can either check out in-game the changelog, which has everything in there, or you can check out the last video on this channel, which is the VOD for a playtesting stream, where I pretty much tested that all this stuff was working properly and wrote the changelog, so it's pretty in-depth. I showed this last devlog, which was not a roadmap, but like a forecast of like where my mental priorities are currently sitting on everything, I think. I'll just talk through it item by item because it's too hard to address the giant pyramid like this. But the Fae biome is still mostly the focus. Recently, we've been doing enemies and hinge rooms, which I didn't show in this video, but you'll find out what they are if you play the game as well. These are both pretty much done as in they function. They're not done as in polished up and like ready to go necessarily, but priorities are shifting to the final boss now. We've sketched out the shape of the final boss in some of the game's data, as well as doing quite a bit of design and preparation work, and we have a plan for how to start working on this. It's going to be a big task. Like, I'm very nervous about the final boss because it obviously is the capstone of like the entire experience, but it's just because bosses are really hard to design in general. At least for me, I find bosses are like the most difficult design space thing. My brain doesn't really work that way for some reason, making these big, hard, single enemy challenges. So, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but it's not going to just be like a big fight against the big bad. It's going to be more of a challenge thing than it is just a boss. Anyway, that's all you get for this devlog. No spoilers. UX plus tutorial and short introduction. So I've shuffled this around a bit. We have backed off a little on the codex and event log because we had some ideas around a better way to do the tutorial, and this exposes how like quickly thinking can shift in the back end in game development. But I think that the onboarding experience for this game is going to become the most important thing very quickly. Like, it's a complicated game, and I think it's already very fun. But the problem is that if it's very fun but complicated, people won't get in to find the fun stuff, right? It's kind of obvious. But that means that everything about the game's onboarding flow needs to support this gradual upskilling and progression. And we're trying to think very carefully about how to make a really delightful way of doing that, as opposed to one that you can just like grit your teeth and get through. Let's say grin and bear it or something like that, yeah. And additionally, we added some new traits in this build and implemented enemies, but this is like the boss and the tutorial are probably the two burning priorities right now. And then this stuff, I love adding new enemies and new units and traits to the game because it just makes things more fun, but it's not really you won't get these big jumps forward in terms of progress towards release from this. So we're just sort of sprinkling it in between other work. And I mean, the Fae enemies are the enemies, right? I think that once again, I never make promises about the actual content of a patch because I'd hate to be wedded to that, but we want to implement some of the units we've got designed. We have many, many units designed that aren't in the game yet, so I would like to get some of those in very soon. But really, the final boss and the tutorial are more important fundamentally, so they're going to be a higher priority for me. Cool. So that brings us to the end of another devlog. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these shorter, a little bit more punchy. It's why it's a presentation, it's why it's clips. And if you want something a bit more rambling and you want to see me, like, I don't know, just talk to myself for several hours. There's plenty of videos in this channel where you can get that. So subscribe if you want to see more devlogs like this, if you want to stay up to date with the game, or if you for some reason want hours and hours of me talking on stream, that's also available here. You could, if you're a game, you can buy the game and check out what we've been doing. It's $10 on Steam and itch.io right now. You also get a copy of it for free if you support us on Patreon. I don't usually plug the Patreon because I forget that it exists, but it does exist. If your appetite for unbalanced, unfinished games is pretty high, I recommend getting in now. It's a good time to play. It's confusing, but I will answer your questions on the Discord if you ask them. If you're not quite game for something so unfinished, that's okay. Just wishlist it and follow along, and when it's version 1, we promise that that will be understandable by somebody who hasn't followed all of these videos. I can't promise it'll be the easiest game you've ever played, but I'm determined to make it that anyone can pick it up and have some idea of what's going on. In the meantime, if you want the more detailed updates from us, Twitter's a great place for that. There's the game account, my account, and the studio account. You can follow me on Twitch and check out the dev streams as they happen. That's pretty hard because it's Australian time zones, but I love the company when I can get it. And you can also join our mailing list. I don't post on this very often, but major updates and just musings kind of come through there. So yeah, as I said here, links to all this in the description down below. But not in the meantime, what am I doing? Oh, I know, I've bungled the outro after a perfectly successful video so far. Didn't misspeak at all. Alright, thank you for watching as I finally have it all unravel here at the end of my my presentation. I'll catch you in the next one, and I hope you enjoy the new patch. We should be on track to keep roughly the same rhythm of delivery. I've got some freelance work that I need to do to pay the bills, so that's going to interrupt progress a bit, but as always, stay tuned and I'll let you know how we're developing things. Until next time, peace out.